Hi guys, and welcome to Crime Don't Pay podcast with Ben Hatchett and Jay, Instagram handle J4ToJay. Why is it called that?
Just4ToJay. So the long and short of it is the 12-step recovery that me and Ben work from the program, it teaches us to live life just for today. So it's okay to have plans and goals, but just don't get expectations and just focus on what you've got to do in the next 24 hours.
Okay,
So it's just intertwines nicely with the platforms and it's a bit catchy, tongue twister as you called it earlier.
Yeah, proper tongue twister. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, you're
Welcome.
I just want to start off from talking about how you two met each other. Obviously, I know you both did some therapy together and had like addiction problems. How did you guys meet?
So basically, obviously, Ben's well known on social media. I'm in the recovery industry and sector on various platforms. And it's funny because I saw Ben a few times when he was posting about being in treatment the first time, but we never connected properly. And then we sort of, I believe it, I call it the universe, intertwined us. We connected through social media, the beauties of it these days. And then before you know it, we hooked up about 5 months ago in Thailand, and we've built a brotherhood. I mean, you can say what you want to say, but yeah,
definitely God's work. It was, sometimes, in the program, obviously, I'm in recovery, and yeah, battling addiction. I realised I was an addict about a year ago. Well, no, not less than a year ago, but I realised I've been battling addiction for the last couple of years. And I knew I had a problem. But God works in mysterious ways, man. It was too much of a coincidence. And we had a mutual friend, and, I went to Tenerife. I relapsed after rehab in Bradford. I did a medical detox. I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced I was an addict. I just thought I was drinking out of like depression and etc. But this time I was fucking broken, man. And I was broken, bruv. Like, went to Tenerife, and I was going to go to a place called Krabi. I was going to go and try and self-detox. And go and start a big pack of diazepams. I was going to go and get myself sorted in Krabi, and we have a mutual friend, Nikki, and she connected us, and I reached out to Jay, and it was like it was meant to be. He goes, Jay's an ex-boyo. You work in a rehab. I'm coming to get fucking clean. Like, you worked in a rehab, and I was like, bro, like, I need help, man. Like, can you help me out? And I wasn't afraid to ask for the help, and that's important, But I was at a point then, I had nothing more left in the locker, man. I had nothing left. Like, I really didn't. And after my blowout in Tenerife,
we met up, didn't we?
Met up.
Yeah, and we met up I picked Ben up in
the day when we met up.
Yeah.
I've come to stop drinking. Like, fuck it, I missed the first boat.
I eventually picked him up. And he had a load of diazepam on him, and he had these big plans. And I thought, okay, I'll help you detox. So I booked him into a friend of mine's. He's world champion of Thailand, Chinarak's gym, Muay Thai camp in Thailand. And I was trying to detox Ben, and I realised that I was going to struggle with this.
I went out the same night.
Yeah, because Ben kept going out the same night. He'd be clean with me in the day, and then when he was left on his own, he was getting smashed. And then it was hard for me to work with him. And the long and short of it is then I reached out to the wonderful place that I've got part of at Holina Rehab in Copenhagen. And they said, look, we're going to do something for you. I've done a lot of work for them. And it's funny, and they helped out, and we lined up Ben's package to help him get in, and he put his savings in that he had left, literally, and that's when the journey, the holistic approach started for you, mate, wasn't it? It was the therapy and different types of stuff that we do, somatic work, aqua tuning, as well as group work, one-to-ones, solely focusing on the mentality. But what it gave, honey, for Ben was a safe environment where the substances and alcohol is strictly not allowed. You're surveillanced. You've got security on site. So not as intense as Ben's prison sentences, obviously, but you are in a secured environment. And if you leave, you are then discharged.
And a safe detox. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually under supervision, a doctor.
Yeah,
Tanya, bless her.
Yeah.
We do your blood pressure. I can only have the diazepam at set times. Not in the back of a gym where I'm trying to do it myself. And I could have probably fucking overdosed, man. Like, I was so fucking gone, man. Like,
What people don't realise is, honey, as well, out of all the detoxes, for the people watching, out of opioids, benzos and alcohol, to withdraw and detox, alcohol is the most dangerous, the one that kills, because you're at high risk of seizure. So in some cases, when you were drinking, like Ben was drinking, you need a medical detox to slowly wean you off through the shakes and through various symptoms that will come up. And it's something that the safety of our clients, we focus on. If they have a shower, they need to notify us, because there's been cases in other treatment centres around the world that people have actually had seizures in the shower from cold water and died in various establishments. So it's something that we really focus on, the safety of the people that come with us for treatment.
Yeah. How did you, so obviously you said about it's a slow kind of process. How do you go about it? Because obviously the withdrawal symptoms are quite severe, so you can't just come to a stop. How do you help your people that come to you for help? How do you help them slowly get out of it?
So it depends purely on the client, and it always, as Ben said, you had to ask for help, and we always urge our clients that come in to be as honest as you can. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to tell you. A lot of cases, clients are on their way and they'll have a last blowout before they come, and they're
everyone does that.
Yeah, I did myself. I was on it before I went to treatment in 2015. I was out for 2 days, but then I was a bit ashamed, and I didn't want to make out I had as big a problem as I initially had. But what it does is you're surveillanced and under 24-hour care, and we will look at the body language, the symptoms, the behaviours, and monitor the clients to each individual case, because everybody is different, and their bodies and will react differently in many cases, especially with age, for instance, the years of the abuse, etc., A, B, and C. But it's there's no race. But also, we don't want to prolong anybody on a medical detox. We want to get them off as soon as we can. That's moving forward to really focus on the problem.
Because that's the thing. I noticed that in the treatment in England, like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, for when I detoxed in England, I was given is it Librium?
Yeah, Librium.
Librium, and that's like, it's like diazepam, isn't it? It's similar. And obviously, when I was in Helena, it was diazepam. You know, and so when you stop drinking, you've got that, which is like a replacement. But then obviously, you know, because you're coming off everything, you know, you can't just stay on that. You got to come down stages. You know, I was off everything over the course of a week. You know, so that the detox. But again, people want to prolong it, though, don't they?
Yeah, some people do. It depends on the individual. Ben's willingness and courage was, you could tell Ben wanted it from the get-go. He was willing. There's a saying that we use, honey, in recovery: what lengths are you willing to go to? You know, the lengths myself and Ben went to use him more and find him more, we have to put into wanting to change. You know, I go to any lengths to get another packet or a drink and get into that 24-hour garage off my nut, drink driving. I wouldn't care. So I have to put that same willingness into how much do you get out, basically what you put into recovery. And as I say, it comes over sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but there's a saying in another fellowship, it will always progress if you work for it.
That's it, right? It's so true. You see, with that, like, you know, people say, well, when I was like experimenting with recovery, Paul Venice, I remember something he said to me. It just come to my head then. I said, "Oh, you know, the meetings are far away. I can't get to a meeting." He said, "Mate," he said, "if you was in the kitchen at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning on the sniff, and you ran out, and you knew that you could get it 2 hours away, and it was pissing down rain, you would fucking, what lengths would you go to go and get it?" It's like you're saying, with the same energy. Like, if there was someone an hour away or whatever, I would go and get that. So why don't I do the same? Put that energy into the recovery. Do you get what I mean? Like, you know, put that energy. If I've got to walk to a fucking meeting, just get to a meeting. You do it for the packet. You do it to something that's going to kill you, sabotage you, ruin you. Why not do it in something that's going to benefit you and save you? You know, it's just exactly what you said.
It's the other one, you know, the one I love. It's where a dealer says he's going to be 20 minutes and you're ringing him up 2 hours later. He's sat having food somewhere and you're at the kitchen or the door still waiting, ringing. So if I'm willing to give my power to another human being and a dealer, then I have to give that same power to something else that can eventually help save my life.
That's good.
It's a good way of looking at it. I feel like with people that have like addictions, it's very hard to come to terms with what you have is like an addiction. How did you guys come to terms with actually knowing that you're addicted?
Well, so what it is, as Ben said, I had many fond memories. For years, they helped me with my feelings, my anxiety, my confidence to chat to women, you know, to be the Jack the lad, to get into fights. But at some point, I can't tell you when or when. All I know is they didn't become fun anymore. And then it was an exercise for survival. And it was isolated. There was consequences. I've done years in behind the doors in prisons. And then until that pain got great enough, the thing with recovery is it's always someone else in recovery that you see the attraction, and then you do what they do if you want what they want. But what people get confused is, honey, as I've explained to Ben and many people I work with, predominantly male clients, is that the disease of addiction is a self-centered, fear-based illness. So let's not look at the substance and the alcohol. Let's look at the thinking. Because if you get arrested because you've had a drunken fight out with your partner, whatever, the next day a normal person would not drink, or you'd control it. The thing with addiction, once I've already put that substance in me, I forget about the consequences and I do it anyway, because my thinking will say, in my voice, by the way, it will go, just have one or two. You can just have a couple and get a little bit of this. Or yeah, but the lads are out, just have one or two and then go home. But no matter what my thinking would tell me, that plan at the beginning of the night would never end how I planned it in my head. So that's why we treat the mind, body and spirit into a new way of thinking. And I always use the quote that Einstein used, and he says, you can't think your way into a new way of living. You have to act your way into a new way of life. So therefore, it takes action, you know, and that's where the change of the behaviour and the thinking comes in, trying things that are new to you.
Do you still feel like you get tempted now? Obviously, you've turned your life around and stuff, and you should be really proud of yourself. Do you still feel like you have that temptation there?
All the time.
Yeah, the thoughts.
We're addicts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not cured. And that was my mistake of thinking, like, when I come out of rehab, and this is the one for you, it's good that we just keep it in for the day. To sit and think, I can never drink again, like, oh, fucking hell, like, it's a heavy one to think. Like, but there's no cure. Like, we are addicts. I had temptation, when was it? I had temptation the other night. You know, for you, we're always, because special emotions, and we're going to go, it's what we used to, me personally, it's what I'm used to doing, you know, if I get angry, upset with this, go get a drink, I feel better. It was a coping what's the word, a coping mechanism for so long, you know. Then it's habits, they don't just go, you know. And addiction, you know, addiction's a behaviour. It's like what the drugs and the drink is not. It's not the addiction. What is it?
It's the Martin. They were the solution. So it's a
weird
symptom. The problem is me and Ben, and the problem is us. So it's like me and Ben.
It's not drinking drugs. That's not the problem. It's us.
Yeah, me and Ben had a conversation yesterday, and I said that I'm only one bad decision away from relapse, but the difference is I don't pick up today. Tomorrow, I can't say. I said to Ben, I've got another relapse in me. But what I don't think I've got is another recovery, because with addiction, 1 in 3 of us only make it. The other 2 will die. That's the statistics all over the world. That out of an addict, if you are an addict of mine and Ben's variety, that only what they said to me in treatment, look at everybody in your circle. When you end up in prisons and rehabs, the likelihood is there's 3 of you in a circle. Look at the person either side of you, because those 2 are going to die. So which one do you want to be? That's the statistics.
When you think of it like that, it's fucked up.
It was funny. I went back to my reunion in 2016, and there was 19 of us in rehab. 11 of them had died through suicide, mental health illness, or because they'd overdosed. And then I realised, then getting into this line of work, how serious this illness is, you know. And my head won't. If I was to relapse, it won't be today. But my head would just, with the guilt, shame and embarrassment, I just want to top myself, which I've tried doing, which I'll talk to you later about. I tried topping myself because I just was so guilty and shameful of relapsing that I didn't want to be here no more.
We spoke about this. We literally had this conversation yesterday, innit? Yeah. Because I said, I haven't got another relapse in me. And Jay was like, no, I've got another relapse in me. I haven't got another recovery in me. I don't feel I've got another recovery in me. And because obviously again with like the social media, you know, and I'm really really trying to spread the message as well. If I had a relapse, I think the fucking guilt, do you know what I mean? Because I'm known that online, the guilt, the shame, and like, I could not fucking imagine it. Do you know what I mean? It is just.
You feel that the first thing is you'll feel like you've let everyone down. Then there's the embarrassment because we've got our faces on social media. It would be having to admit and come forward with that. And as much as people will say, listen, you've messed up, you can't tell us with our heads because we just will go into isolation mode, alienation. And yeah, that's how dangerous it is. If you don't reach out and connect and ask for help, which is what we ask anybody to do with our platforms, is just let us reach out. We can help you, but you have to help yourself.
Apparently, like your most powerful thing that you have is like your mind. And if your mind is against you, it's awful. What advice would you give people out there if they're struggling and they need help? What advice would you give them to seek help?
Yeah, what about anxiety? What advice would you give people suffering anxiety?
I'd say it's like what you said before in the other podcast I did with you. Manifest, just sit in your head and think. Like, it's awful being in your head because obviously with anxiety it's bad. I struggle coping with it. But
So
if
for
you
those
just,
that don't know, this is Honey's like first time doing the podcast, and it's good because you're suffering anxiety yourself.
yeah,
She's getting into the podcast. Like, how do you find it doing it? Do you have an anxiety doing the podcast?
yeah, I'm fidgeting with a pen to help.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's
You
like a
know,
coping mechanism.
We know what we're so used to doing. And what I've learned over the years is everyone's got this label. I've got bad anxiety. No, we haven't. We've just got anxiety. It's a normal human feeling. So it's learning to adapt it, be aware of it, sit with it, and just go, I've got a bit of anxiety. Because I can tell you one thing: the brain is trained to always keep us safe and comfortable. The minute we're doing things like what you're doing now, and it's uncomfortable, it's called growth. So it's just going, you know what, I'm growing. Or we can sit at home isolated, safe where the brain wants us, and then you'll never progress or make any change.
Yeah, you got to make the step. And I'll be proud of myself later for like doing it. But it's obviously doing it at first feels scary. But that's what you need to tell yourself in your head. You need to be like, look, I've got this. And then you get through it.
Yeah. Believe in yourself. We believe in you, so believe in yourself, you know?
Same with you guys, like you've done wicked, like turning your life around and stuff, and obviously it must have been really difficult, all the stuff you've had to face. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about your time in prison?
Yeah, I can do. So for me, I was going to touch on it a bit later on when we do the one, but you know, for me, my journey was similar to Ben's, not with the hospitals. But, you know, for me, prison, the short of it right now in this interview is, for me, I used prison as a rehab. So I had good intentions with the robberies and violence that I was causing at the time. Prison for me was I can get a nice bit of lie down, do a couple of years, bang weights, get out, and then I'm going to change my life. But I got caught up in a cycle where that became a behaviour and the normality to me. But the reality was nothing changed. I was just in and out of jails all over the country.
How old was you when you first went to prison?
I was 16, and I always share. I heard earlier one of the questions you was asking. Funny enough, honey, I remember the first day I went to Feltham and young offenders jail, which is one of the most roughest jails in London for a young offender. And I was a Sussex boy, and I went into that prison, and I'll tell you something that I rarely speak about. But I went into this jail and it was all gangs and postcodes, and I could look after myself, but I was a little Sussex boy with a privileged background in a YO, and I was shitting myself. The first night I was there, I went into the showers, and all I remember is a ginger lad coming in, and he was from North. And looking at him, you thought, no, he's a bit of a sausage, you know, because I'm very quick to judge. In the end, I'm showering, and all of a sudden, two other gentlemen come into the showers, and they were going to run up on him because he had a different postcode. And all I heard was these two fellas screaming, and he had a shank on him, and he stabbed them both 27 times in the shower. And all I remember is looking down at the floor, my whole feet were covered in a big pile of blood, and I just thought, what the fuck am I doing in here? And then I got banged up because they thought that I was involved in it. This kid, this ginger lad, I can't remember his name, that doesn't matter, but he was obviously tooled up. And then the reality sunk into me then, and even talking about it, being a 16-year-old boy, I was like, oh my fucking God, like, I'm in trouble here if I don't look after myself. So again, it was what Ben said, you adapt to a mentality. If I'm not ready to set pace, then I'm gonna get into problems here. So you condition your brain to, like, if it goes on top, I've got to have the row, which I did on many occasions throughout my sentences for me. But as I say, it just became the norm, innit? It was like,
I remember the same thing, because I'm from Sussex as well, and I remember going to Huntercombe and Feltham, and because like in London, being a city and etc., and obviously the population. There's more people, you know, crime's higher and that, etc. People are going to go away, and like, you know, young lads are going to be sentenced to go into prison, and they're going to know each other. They're going to know people, know of each other. As whereas like where we're from, not many people at our age are going to like young offenders and etc. But you know, not nowhere near as many as like places like London. So when we went to like these places, we're like by ourselves. We're sort of meeting people as you sort of come and go. But that can be a bad thing as well, because you know. You're sort of by yourself. Whereas like, if I was from like a city, and you're gonna sort of know people, so you've got some sort of comfort or some sort of protection, knowing someone, etc. But when we go to them places, it was always like fucking just by yourself. You know what I mean? So it's either like, you know, you had to fucking man up ASAP, or you potentially, because you know it's a lot more hostile, innit? Young offenders is a lot more fucking aggressive, you know. Adult prison is a lot more like laid down, relaxed. You can just sort of get on with it. If you look for a problem, you can find one. But in young offenders, the problems can fucking find you. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Just like the way you look, and like the way you look, the way you say something, the way you move, anything can just cause a fucking problem. Everyone's just young, dumb, and full of cum. You know what I mean? Remember that saying? It's like that. Do you know what I mean? Like the fucking. They
just got a point to prove, and I think that the consequences with adult jails, people want to get in and get out, and they want to try and change it up or connect and network. Whereas in YOs, you've got lads in there doing life sentences that probably ain't going to see the light of day, and they just want the reputation in there, which is each to their own. It's funny, just ending on this topic. I remember coming out of that jail, and my mum and dad picked me up, and I had my little brother in the car. And my attitude in front of them was like, yeah, it was all right. You know, I'd come out, I'd tell the lads in school that, yeah, it was minor, it was light work, you know, I bossed it up in there. The reality was, if I could have done a 24-hour bang-up on that sentence, I would be real with you, I would have, you know. But then, obviously, moving on through my adulthood and life, jail was just the norm. I was known in the prison system. I could land on any wing in a jail, and mainly West Midlands, and I would be a known prisoner there. I'd already be connected and networked, because as Ben was saying, you get to know faces that are in and out.
I grew up with people, like people are started with it. It's mad. Like it's like generations you go through. Like I remember guys I met in young offenders. I see him years later, and it's like you just instantly your mates, because you're like childhood mates. You met each other in fucking young offenders, and you see, and it goes through phases. And it is the prison. It's a small, you know, it's only like 100,000 people go to prison, to be honest, something like that. Don't actually quote me on that. I don't know. I remember it's 88,000
prisoners. But they re-offend. Yeah, that's the justice system.
And you know, it's community as well. It is like a community. You know, you do something in one prison, you start getting known, because people get transferred and story pops and all that. You know, you start young, and like me, you go years later and that, you just end up knowing people, and it's rotational doors, especially like the local prisons. You know, the Cat Bs. Is local Cat B, Cat C? Yeah, Cat B, which is like local prisons to different areas where you're remanded and etc. And you just sort of know people and that. And
then you've got the Cat D, which is where if you're on good behaviour. For me, I was never on good behaviour.
I never landed in a Cat D.
I never had the touch where that others were getting into open jails where they could do, which you was talking about earlier, they could do home visits. But because of the violence and what I was doing inside the door, there was no way. They wouldn't even take me to the board to even approach me on that, because I was just a liability, to be honest.
And to be honest, listen, if you went to a Cat D, do you reckon you would have fucked it up?
I would have done one. I would have been bringing parcels in and all sorts.
I'm that type of guy. In my mentality back then, if they give me an inch, I would have fucking took a mile.
Yeah.
Like I would have been the one. Yeah. Like I heard the stories from guys I met on the wing, and they just fucked up from a cat deal. They're going cat deal. Oh yeah, you can run and sneak off and go get a takeaway or get parcels. Yeah. Like I would have just been fully involved. I am not that. I was definitely not that type of guy that could just go to a place like that and keep my head down. Nah. They built like that. I would have been in the thick of it somehow. I would have fucked it up within a month. Like I was always hating, I can't get to go there. But if I went there, I would have just fucked it up anyway. I would have well tried getting a takeaway in. I would have just got pissed off or wanted to go and get pissed up. And again, saying that back, you can just see it's connected to addiction. Yeah. I reckon it would have been down to drink or something, or wanted to go out and just bang a bird or something. Like, literally, I'm fucking off. And yeah, I would have given myself a month, if that. How long have you?
I would have been, similar. I remember, you know what, just touching on that subject, it was like, when they sent me to, so I ended up getting sent to Swinford Hall. I just look back and get flashbacks of how far I've come, and I don't say this for people to go fucking hell, and I'm not doing this out of ego, but I'm saying my mentality in life. I had some gang-related stuff with another person from the area. Me and him was at war because we were at turf war for selling substances. And me and him run up on each other in a prison, and it was a very violent situation between us both. So they sent me off to Swinford Hall, and Swinford Hall is an under 25s for nonces, rapists, and violent offenders. It's the worst under 25 prison known to man in this country. And I remember when they twisted the power, we call them Power Rangers. They come in with their shields and gloves, twisted me up, put me on the wagon to Swinford Hall. And the first thing they wanted to do to me was for me to sign a compact to say that I wouldn't touch another prisoner for what offence he was in for. But my mentality was like, if I see someone in here that's harmed children or touched a woman, it's on like Donkey Kong. And because I refused to sign the contract, they blocked me off. And I actually did the most time at that period in Swinford Hall to be blocked off. So basically the block is where you're in a padded cell, no TV, no daylight. You piss and shit through a hatch in bags, and they feed you through the hatch. And I actually did 5 weeks in the block. So when I then eventually got onto the wing, the whole prison was chanting my prison number because and I was like 8 stone. I was all shriveled up, pale, ants in sunlight. So already in that environment, I was already known as what you call, fucking hell, he's got something about him. You know, that was the I look back and I just think it's absolutely insane, the things I used to do. And then again, straight away, I saw the kid that got the 2 lads that put the child on the train track and killed him. I see one of his killers, and I absolutely wrote him off. I smashed the geezer, and I don't regret that. But my mentality, even though I'd just done that, I was like, he did this to this. I think it was the Venables killers. Was it Jason Venables? I don't know. But then it was straight away, I was into more problems, more consequences, shipped out to somewhere else. And it was just like, talking about it now, I'm like, wow, you know, I've come a long way from those days there. And I'm grateful, thank the grace of God and recovery, that I'm not caught up in that justice system now. You know, it's like my life is a million miles away from that. And I thank God for that.
Are they not meant to keep like the nonces and the rapists like, separate?
No, they get mixed up along the system some ways sometimes, and the prisons now are so overcrowded. I don't know how they're managing it, but thank God we ain't got to worry about that today. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not on my worry list.
No.
I'm not gonna lie though, what you did though, and you like you said you weighed him in and stuff. You should be proud of yourself. That was a sentence that like you should be like.
And the thing is, I got more consequences for that. That's the trouble, but that's just, you know what, I've got no resentment or hard feelings. I don't regret it, and life goes on. It's just, you get things. I didn't even remember that story until I was just, when you asked me the question about the prisons, it just brought some stuff up for me, you know. But I believe there's a saying that I always say, it's not what you've done, it's what you've overcome. Yeah. You know, if you're still doing that stuff, then don't accept any validation from it. But if you've turned your life around, whoever's watching, and you've come out the other side, you know, if you're a perfect human, stay away from me, because I make mistakes, man, and I believe everyone makes mistakes and messes up in life, but it's about what you overcome, not about what you've done, you know. And that's the way the change comes in.
I feel like the system is really like fucked up. Like I feel like with like rapists and like nonsense and stuff, they get less time than say someone who's like drug dealing and stuff. But then people come and they ask for drugs, like that's what they ask for kind of thing. But then with those type of people, no one asks for that, but they kind of get light sentences, I feel.
See, you ever seen that video, the TikTok Sam Walker done? He was going, you ever seen that? There's a TikTok with Sam, I know Sam, and I can't remember his charge anyway, but he's on his way back, he's on his way to court, and he's got someone up above who's filming, he's come out the sweatbox. You ever seen it, anyone, huh? And he's there cuffed up, and as they're trying to get him into the court, he stopped there, and he stopped, and he's shouting out, he goes, fucking, look at this, lad. He goes, fucking nonsense, pedophiles get fucking listed, drug dealers. Like, he said the same thing, you know, people choose to do drugs. You know, the people that, women that don't choose to be raped, and it is the sentences and that, yeah, it's crazy. I think there's someone famous not long ago saying that, got done for a sexual crime and it was in the paper, I can't remember who it was, and just their sentence was fucking, like, crazy.
Just want to point out as well, you went from a bit of Scouse to a bit of Irish then. So Sam
I was
Walker, if
Scouse.
you do end up watching, mate, he was just giving an example.
Yeah, big up to Sam, man. Yeah, you can see it on TikTok. If you say Sam Walker prison van or something, it will come up. It's like, oh, hold on, just see if we get it up. But it's true, it is true what you're saying. The sentences and that, it is fucking weird. The whole sentencing system is a lot, you know, is weird. But they don't like violent offences. You know, I mean, with the IPP system, like life in 2006 and that, you know, people were just getting fucking, like, any violent crime, people was getting like a year IPP, 2 year IPP. You know, some people are still in prison now from an IPP, you know, it's fucking crazy.
What is an IPP, if you don't mind me asking?
It's an indefinite public protection sentence. So it's basically they give you like 4 year IPP, so you'd have to serve 4 years before you can go for parole. But the thing is, like, you'd have to do therapy. It's like the courses. You'd have to do certain courses to be like eligible for parole. But that means you've always got to stay out of trouble. It's not always easy in prison. But then certain prisons would have certain courses. So if I've done my course in this prison, now I've already been in 4 years, I need to be moved to another prison to do that other course. So I've got to wait to go on the transfer list. So I've got to wait to get transferred to that prison. I've got to get to that prison, get past the induction period. Then if that course I want to go on is running, I've got to wait for that course to be finished. Could be a year-long course. Could have just started. So it's a year I've got to wait. And then I've got to wait to get enrolled in that course. That's 2 years then. Adding on, you're meant to do 4 years. And that's only another course. Then you might have to go to another prison to do another course. That's why they stopped the IPP sentence now. It was a fucking, they got it so wrong.
It was it's a life sentence charge. There's long and short of it. There's many riots going on at the minute with people that are on the IPP that are never getting out. And it's a really naughty, horrible charge. Luckily, when I had one of my sentences, I remember I was padded up with someone and he says, you're lucky for that offence that you might end up being IPP. And I'll tell you what, my heart sunk, but they just banned the IPP 2 days before. And somehow I escaped that. But it's basically, you've got thousands of British men or people on a ticking time bomb. They don't know their release date, and they're just sitting behind a door with no hope, no help, you know, just to see if they're going to ever get out of prison. And some of them are for accidental crimes. And yeah, it's a naughty charge.
Or crimes
to be on.
that don't warrant a life sentence.
Crimes that don't warrant a life sentence.
The sentence I was on was a hospital version of the IPP, and there's nothing fucking worse. Like, you know, if you like life, you've gone, then you can half accept it, and you're just getting on with it. Or, you know, if you've been sentenced for a crime for, let's say, 8 years, do 4 years, you've got a release date. But to have a sentence and not actually have a release date is the worst.
It's horrible.
That was one of the things that fucked my head as well, because I was just like, I've got a parole next year. I could get, you know, do you know what I mean? You just sort of like, you know, when you sort of have an end goal, you know, even if you had like
you've got
20
hope
years,
at the end.
Yeah, you've got some form of hope. And that, do you know, that's a good point. Like, that sentence just takes away all your sort of hope. You know, how are you meant to stay motivated to go and do these courses and do that? Like, it's hard to have hope when there's no end goal. It's just
a lot of the IPP people that's come out, that a lot of them have been committing suicide in the prison system in their cells because of it.
You can't fucking blame them, mate. You can't blame. Like, it's not. That's no shock. Like, I served a similar sentence, mate. And that is the hardest. I'll tell you what, that's the hardest thing. It takes your hope away, not knowing when you're getting out. You know what I mean? But just like potentially it could be this year, that year. Like I remember I was sitting there saying, hopefully a year after next I might get out. Like fuck him, it's mad looking back thinking I used to say that.
So yeah, it brings back loads of flashbacks for me, man. It's like, mate, grateful to be here though. Anyway.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine like going through that. That sounds horrible. Like, at that point, you just think your life has gone to the system. Like there's no point in like doing anything, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still mad to think about. Like I think I'd say fucking 10 years. Like especially out, because at least I look back. I think fucking hell, I've actually done that. But at the time, it's like, yeah, it's a long time at the time. But when it's like everything, once you've sort of done it and that, you look back, you think, oh, that weren't bad. Well, it's done now.
Do you think it like affected you after leaving prison, like getting those kind of sentences? Obviously, you thinking you was going to get it, and then you obviously got the 3741. Did it affect you when you got out?
Yeah, institutionalised. No, still institutionalised. I actually spoke with Dave Courtney, a mutual friend, innit?
He's a character.
I met him after a few months of getting out for Liam Galvin. We was talking. I was like, yeah, I'm adapting. He goes, you ain't adapting. He goes, it's going to take you a couple of years. And it's true. Do you know what I mean? It's, you know, everything's been done for you. You're in like a bubble and, you know, socially. And again, that's what I think, again, come to drinking and that as well. You know, I wasn't able to. Now I was allowed to being on your own devices, trying to like, you know, you got to do everything your sort of self and that now. And yeah, it's not easy. It was all my 20s. It was a massive chunk, you know. So definitely institutionalization. I think that's the word. Like, yeah, that it was hard to adapt.
It does. For me, it was like holiday camp though. In my adulthood, it was like prison probably saved my life the way it was, because I weren't willing to go to rehab. You know, I'd rather go and do, as I said earlier, I'd go and do a lie down. I'd get a couple of years. I'd get 18 months. I'd get a year, or get remanded. And then I had the best intentions when leaving, but ultimately no hope for the solution. So ultimately I would just go back to the same people, the same places, doing the same things. And then by the time I'd got out the gates, the lads would be there picking me up in cars and we'd be straight out back on it. So it was like, but then again, I didn't know that I had a me problem. I thought it was a drug problem, you know, but that's what I say to anybody now, bringing the recovery back in. Like, if you are, the things that you got to, with addiction is, honey, if it's not becoming fun anymore, you can't just have one and your life is unmanageable, i.e. losing jobs, cheating, making excuses, then you have to ask yourself, maybe, do I think I might have a problem here? Because we're so used to going, I was anyway, well, I'm not a smackhead, I'm not smoking crack, I'm not injecting, I'm not homeless. But what I know is that them people that are on the streets now, that is just because they're further down the line than me, you know. But thankfully, I intervened in that cycle and I'm not there. But that's the only way it ends up. There's a saying in it: jails, institutions, and death. That's the reality of an addict, you know, unless you get into recovery. Because if the drugs don't kill you, the head will.
You guys should be really proud of yourself, though. Like, you're really brave. Obviously, stopping it earlier on rather than going down the line and stuff, and then struggling worse. Then, because obviously, when you think of addicts, you think of the people on the streets and stuff.
What's your definition of an addict, truthfully?
Someone who's like addicted.
Do you think someone who's like a heroin addict sleeping outside on the street?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you do think of that.
I thought, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I thought. What about you? Like, before you knew about addiction, what would you say?
Mine was, if you were drinking cider in the morning and pints at Weatherspoons at 10 a.m. in the week, and you were homeless begging for money, that was an addict for me. You know, that was because in the society, they're the ones that we look at and walk past in the street. You know, but addiction is a lot more than, as I've said about the substances. It doesn't matter what you're using. It could be prescription drugs. It could be marijuana. It could be cocaine and alcohol, or alcohol. Predominantly, you know in your inner self, if this isn't fun no more. We can't diagnose any. I have a lot of people reach out to me on the social media, and I can't diagnose anyone an addict.
They ask you, you're getting questions.
Do you think I'm an addict? Well, I'm using this, and I'm using. I can't tell you if you're an addict or not. The thing that you got to do is use the helplines that we send. the packages that we offer in rehab, and the various other stuff and tools that we offer and share with people that we shared with us. And then it's up to you to diagnose yourself, you know, because as I say, I had to go within, like Ben, I couldn't say to Ben in the madness, Ben, do you not think that you could possibly be an addict? He'd say, fuck off.
You can't tell anyone
You
that.
can't.
Like, there's people I know around me that I know that are an addict. I can't tell them they're an addict.
No,
You can't.
It's
Like,
not our
as
business
much as
to-
I want to, like, in a way, I like to. You probably know what I'm on about. I want to say to him, bruv, you're a fucking addict, man.
But we don't
can't.
judge. You
No.
know, all we can do, honey, in this game is be reachable and teachable, and know that by us staying clean, it's attractive for the others to then follow our footsteps and be reachable when they want the help. But we don't force anybody. I'm certainly not a babysitter. I'm certainly not going to go around chasing someone to try and get clean. But if you do want the help, you know, then there's a solution, and we do recover.
You can't force recovery on anyone either. Like,
No.
you really can't. Like, and you see it. Like, I know, you know, I won't say them. There's someone I was in rehab with, and it was their family. You know, that her family put her in the rehab, and
Yes.
straight away she relapsed and they got out because he wasn't there by himself. Like with addiction, like with me, I kind of like the first time got put in rehab. Yeah, agreed to it. I got kind of put there. I didn't go there like, you know, I need like when I went to rehab in Thailand, I went over to Thailand to get sorted because I wanted it. No, there was a difference. You need to want it yourself. Like, you know, you can take someone that you think's an addict and you can put them in rehab, all this, that, the other.
You won't
It's
stop
just-
an addict.
You won't. Yes, you won't. You will
I
not
haven't-
stop. You will not stop. If someone wants to use, if someone wants to drink, take whatever. Yeah, they will do it. You can't stop them. It's they just want to do it themselves.
I have a lot of parents, just while we're on it, the recovery, I have a lot of parents reaching out because addiction and substance abuse is getting so younger now in the generation. And I have a lot of parents that reach out to me, and I say to their parents that unfortunately there is absolutely nothing that you can do for your child apart from tough love. Stop funding them money, stop holding yourself accountable and blaming yourself for your child or teenager's actions. You have to grow up and you have to give tough love, because ultimately what a lot of parents do, God bless them, is they carry their child further into addiction by feeling, well, should have done this for him as a child. And it's very easy for addicts like us in active addiction to blame parents, to blame people, blame everybody else, rather than going, hold on, it's you that's making these choices, so why don't you take responsibility? But as well, just to say, if anybody parents that end up watching this, there is communities of people going through the same stuff with loved ones, children in addiction, where they've got a great support network that doesn't cost any money, and it's where parents and loved ones, and if you've got a partner that's an addict or a child, you're all on the same journey and they support one another. Because I think we're built in every human needs connection and to know they're not alone, you know, and there is points of calls and helplines and communities out there that certainly do that. But again, it's if you want to look into that stuff, you know.
It's like that saying, you can bring the lamb to water, but you can't bring the water to
Horse in
lamb.
it.
Horse. Oh, okay. I thought,
She swatched it. I like the lamb though. I thought, I've got a new one here.
I said it in my head, horse, and I was like, horse don't sound right, so I changed it to lamb, and now
You can
I
take the
fucked
horse
up
to
still.
water, but you can't make it drink it, innit?
Yeah, that's
if
the
the
one.
lamb's a slaughter.
Yeah.
You can bring the lamb to slaughter.
I like your open-mindedness though with it.
It's the same, innit? As we say in Thailand, same.
Yeah,
Potato.
cool.
Do you guys have any funny stories to kind of make it turn? It's been a bit of a sad kind of topic. Do you guys have any funny stories about therapy and stuff?
About the therapy, not really. It's funny. I thought you'd just line me up then to when funny
Talk about the
stuff. In
story.
active addiction, I've got some mad stuff. With what the stuff I used to get up to.
You thought I told them.
I thought that you worded her out and said,
No,
get Jay to
no,
talk
no,
about
no.
some of the stuff that he did in parties and sessions. But no, in therapy, you know, I think not funny stories in therapy, you know.
No.
It's like with therapy, you're at a point where you're seeking help, you know, you take it more seriously. I certainly did, because you know whatever's were not working for you, ultimately my best thinking got me there in the first place. So it's like, yeah. But then again, each to their own.
If you feel like you're struggling, do you guys like contact each other and like help each other through it?
Yeah, I'm on the phone. So in recovery, in the 12 steps, the fellowship, we have something that's called a sponsor. I asked Jay to be my sponsor. He said no because we're too friendly, which is true. Because you know what I mean. You can't like. Jay, you know, I reach out to Jay daily. We have a thing we call turning it over. You know, my sponsor's someone else who he's not a friend, but he is. He's an isn't because you need someone who's gonna basically tell you fucking straight and yeah, you can tell you not what you want to hear. Like
I've done it.
People hate their sponsors as well sometimes. Don't
yeah,
they? Like,
because the sponsor tells you it's another recovering addict, but they tell you stuff that you don't like to hear. And the thing is, when I've sponsored friends before, we've ended up falling out because I will say something, you go past that sponsorship and sponsee relationship, and then if I was to try and advise Ben, but he knows something about me, he'll go, well, you do this, and then it breaks that connection there, and that's why I don't sponsor any friends. I'm at the end of the phone, but I'm just on that earlier, you said temptations. I just want to reword that word temptations and change it to thought. Because yes, we do get thoughts of using substances. I wouldn't say it's a temptation. I'm an addict.
True.
You know, when I come into recovery, honey, I started having nightmares of relapsing. But it's funny, when I was in active addiction, I would have loved to go to bed dreaming about using substances. But all of a sudden in recovery, something in your subconsciousness is trying to get in there. But I get thoughts still, yeah. I can get thoughts, and then I have to work my program. I have to use the tools that I've been given and know that staying clean today must always comes first. But yeah, I do get thoughts, but I don't get temptations. I get thoughts. But it's about what I do.
I associated the temptation with the thoughts. I don't get, like, I'm not at that point where I'm tempted. I get the thoughts, but not like tempted. I'm glad you said that.
You got the tools, and then we've got the program, we've got the connection, we've got each other in recovery where we use each other as support.
It's really beautiful, like, to have that and be able to like rely on each other when you need and stuff.
That's the beauty about a fellowship. That's you know, you'll meet some of the most genuine people in the fellowship. You know, you really can. Like, no one judges. Everyone's fucking you. You hear people shares and that. Nothing's you say and that. Like, other people haven't seen, done it, hear it themselves. You know, we'll hit a certain fucking low in our life. You know, if we haven't got each other in the fellowship, like.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. You do it together.
That's why it's there. The program's there. That's why it's a fellowship. Fellows, you know, just a bunch of
like-minded people on the same journey.
Yeah, what they call? What's a group of junkies? Oh,
they call God group of druggies. It spells.
And listen, for everyone needs to know about this fellowship, yeah, they're like, yes, everyone probably thinks it as well. It's a God cult and. Oh, it's religion. It's not as well, man. Like, this is so important. Like, so many people say, "Oh, I've gone to meetings," but they start talking about God, and I feel I'm not part of this fucking God cult. Like,
but it's not about religious. It clearly says it's not a religious program. You know, I don't go to church. I do pray. I do believe that there's something out there that's in control of everything. I don't believe that man or woman is. You know, and if it can work for others in their meetings, then it can work for me. And that's what our message is. Don't worry about the word God in the meetings. And when they talk about that, you know, just focus on the ones that are clean with years of recovery. But if they can do it from a hopeless junkie, you know, then so can I.
Thank you guys for coming on. It's been lovely to have you both.
Pleasure. Thank you for having us as well. And keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great, and we appreciate you having us.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing more from you both in the future.
Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Support Honey on her journey.
Let's go.
I want to see you. I'm going to tune in at about 10 podcasts deep and see how you've blossomed.
It's a free subscription. Just click the link in Honey's bio. Like, share. You know, these sort of stuffs and stories that she's putting her time in is raising awareness for everybody out there. You know, so make sure you get involved. It doesn't cost anything. And that's how we do. We help others in areas, man. And that's a message from us.
And give her feedback. Give her feedback in the comments, man. Get supportive. Get behind her. Do you know what I mean? And help her grow. I really hope you grow. I really hope, you know, these podcasts. My third one with you now. Like, I really hope this helps. But all the best to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Sweet. I'm dying for a piss. Thank you. Jay, stab him in each leg. And I went, what do you mean? And he said, stab him in each leg. Now, if you think there's 60,000 people worldwide that didn't wake up this morning, but I've woken up. And that's what I'm grateful for. And that was when reality hit, like, what am I doing here? Am I going to survive? Someone said to me that there's always a price to pay and a bill to pay. If you're willing to accept the consequences and pay the bill, then it's always down to the choice of that person. So I was going all over the country helping disability children at farms, old people, and I was doing that as well as my recovery stuff. And then before you know it, days turned into months and months turned into years, you know, especially with anxiety. Right, and today I've got anxiety, I'm grateful. Today I've got food on the table. Today I've got a clean bed. Today I'm grateful. And it's just little things trying to change the thinking behind it, you know. Yeah.
How long have you been clean for, if you don't mind me asking?
3 years and 5 days abstinence, from everything. So, yeah.